Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us on an evening and a beautiful evening at that. We will be very efficient with your time so that we can all enjoy this and then also enjoy the outdoors, hopefully. I am here because November 8th is the most consequential Illinois election in over 50 years for reproductive rights. Every single General Assembly seat is up for re-election, and so truly the fate of reproductive rights in Illinois is in the hands of voters. The only way to protect reproductive rights in Illinois, we believe, is to elect 100% pro-choice candidates to the General Assembly and to the Illinois Supreme Court. Reproductive freedom in Illinois hasn't been at such great risk since the pre-Roe days. And if pro-choice candidates don't win on election day, we will lose our pro-choice majority. A lot of people don't realize, and I didn't realize this myself until I got more involved with Personal PAC and with Jane's Army, but the Illinois Supreme Court is elected and not appointed. So there are 7 Supreme Court justices. Each is elected to represent specific districts, and they're voted into office by the residents of their respective regions. So each justice serves then a 10-year term, which means the decisions made on the court and on electing the right people to the court have really long-term impacts. And this year, anti-choice extremists are just one seat away from controlling the court in the same way that they now control the U.S. Supreme Court, which I think that we are, I'm ad-libbing a bit, but I think that sometimes amongst this group in particular, where there are a lot of activists and people who are really engaged in politics, we sort of uniquely understand just how grave that is, given that Illinois is such an island in the Midwest for providing access to abortion and care. So just really want to underline that point. It's easy to take for granted our majority, but we really can't. So if we allow anti-choice extremists to gain the majority this year, they basically could immediately erase all of the protections and rights like HB 40, the Reproductive Health Act, the parental notice of abortion repeal or PNA repeal that we've worked really hard to ensure. And so given this very bleak reality, Jane's Army is working to ensure that as many people as possible understand why it's so essential that pro-choice voters turn out this election. Which is why we're here and why we wanted to bring all of you incredible organizers, leaders, advocates, voters, hopefully some first timers into the same room or at least the same Zoom room to get on the same page about what's at stake and really remind people why the Illinois Supreme Court races are so important for reproductive rights, but also for so much more. So with that, incredibly honored to be welcoming 2 amazing candidates for the Illinois Supreme Court, Judge Mary Kay O'Brien in the 3rd District and Judge Elizabeth Rochford in the 2nd District. I'm going to introduce Judge O'Brien first. She's an experienced and highly qualified judge with deep roots in the community, a long history of public service. She has served on the 3rd District Appellate Court for nearly 18 years. And you can tell that I'm reading this because both of these judges have so many impressive credentials that I have to read them so I don't miss any. And she's heard more than 4,500 cases, served on numerous committees. Prior to becoming a judge, she served as a state legislator from 1996 to 2003. And despite facing an incumbent, O'Brien ran to fight for working families and common sense values, and her victory secured the Democratic majority in the House of Representatives. While she served in the General Assembly, she chaired the Judiciary Committee of Criminal Law, where she presided over death penalty reform and fought to protect children from violent offenders and expand the statute of limitations for sexual assault against minors. So we're incredibly grateful for you, Judge O'Brien, and for your work, and so happy to have you with us tonight. Would love to pass it over to you and hear more about you and your campaign.
Thank you, Chloe and Grace and Terry and everyone for giving us the opportunity to speak tonight. Like you said, I have been on the appellate court now almost close to 19 years. I have been on the 3rd District. The old 3rd District was 21 counties. It's now 7 counties. It includes the entire county of DuPage, Will, Kankakee, Iroquois, Grundy, LaSalle, and Bureau. And if you don't live in that district, but you know someone who does, you can help get the vote out and rock it out. I was a legislator before that, but my professional career began as a consumer advocate at the Illinois Attorney General's office in the Kankakee Regional Office. I took on at that time, many are too young to know about the vitamin scams, where people would get the continuous $800 charges on their credit cards for these vitamins that were worthless. And that's where I got my first taste of advocating for people who didn't feel empowered to do it for themselves. And I went on to the General Assembly and chaired the Criminal Law Committee, but I also worked to start the 13th Judicial Circuit Family Violence Prevention Council to help victims of domestic violence. I have worked tirelessly to advocate for people who felt they had no voice. That role changed when I went to the court, where we don't advocate, but it has shaped who I am as a person and in my perspective. And as you mentioned, this election is like no other, and certainly not in my lifetime that I recall. I was 8 when Roe became the law of the land, and so we have become accustomed to our values and our rights being expressed by the decisions made by the court. And the Dobbs decision is clearly just an illusory way for people to try to control women, but they're not done if they just can control us. They're also going to undo many rights, whether or not it is the environment, same-sex marriage, whoever they decide is a threat to their power and to their ego. And the stakes couldn't be higher. Illinois does have a higher privacy right. It is included in our Constitution. I believe that it gives us the absolute right to protect people when they're making healthcare decisions, no matter who they are, and how they choose to, who they choose to marry, and all sorts of things. But that will be a hard-fought battle. The Illinois Supreme Court has not touched choice since, I believe, 2013, and it didn't decide that we have a right to choose based on privacy. They said we do based on Roe versus Wade and the Due Process Clause. So I think that, the battle is waging, and it is something that voters have to take very seriously. And it isn't enough just to say we're going to tell our friends about it. We need to take specific action to get people out to vote. Judges are at the very back of the ballot. We have to inform voters where they're at, and we have to let them know that, we have to start at the back, work to the front, and encourage people to get those vote by mail options, get their voting out of the way, and to help in any way they can, just like this forum tonight is doing. And it's an honor for me to be endorsed by pro-choice groups. My opponent's already out there talking about the fact that he's not a member of the Thomas More Society, but he is. He's already trying to rewrite his history, but we're not going to let him. And, with your help, I know that I'm going to be elected, and Liz Rochford's going to be elected. We're going to have a 5-2 majority, and we're going to have 5 women on the Illinois Supreme Court with your help. And I think that would be amazing. And with that, I will turn it back over to you, Chloe.
Well, I certainly agree. I think that would be amazing as well. And thank you again for being here and for, just continuing to underline the importance of this election. Now we're going to move on to Judge Rochford. Judge Elizabeth Rochford has the experience and integrity to be a real champion and leader on the Illinois Supreme Court as well. She started her career as assistant state's attorney before moving into private law practice, served for 23 years as commissioner of the Illinois Court of Claims, and has served as a judge for the past 9. Judge Rochford is a true leader in her field and has been recognized for her judicial achievements. She's part of several Illinois State Bar Association committees and is deeply involved in her community with her time dedicated to programs like Habitat for Humanity, Waukegan to College. She's a Waukegan to College speech coach, works on volunteer mediation, and so much more. And we're also very grateful for your work and for you being with us. So I'm going to pass it over to you to share a bit more about your campaign.
I am feeling the power of Jane's Army tonight, and thank you for having me. So it is true that our Illinois Supreme Court is on the ballot in this November. And when these two open seats were created, it was because a map was redrawn, and it was the first time that map has been redrawn since 1964. I'm running in the second district. The second district is now 5 counties. It's all of Lake, McHenry, Kane, Kendall, and DeKalb. And it's been stated before tonight, but we cannot overemphasize it. This chance for these open seats will not come again for a very long time. The term for Supreme Court Justice is 10 years. And after 10 years, it's not an open election, it's a retention ballot. And only one time in Illinois history has a judge not been retained. So it is very likely that it will be decades before we have another opportunity for these open seats. One thing you should know about me is I'm an optimist, and I view this opportunity as an absolute positive. It's an opportunity like we have never seen before. But one thing we should note is that judges are dead last on the ballot, and oftentimes voters lack the information that they need. They get to the judges and they think, holy cow, I don't know anything about these judges. I'll just skip them, or I'll just randomly pick one. And that's a frustration because these judicial positions are so important. But as a result of the recent federal Supreme Court rulings, people are alerted to the power and the work of the courts like never before. When you engage people about this conversation and you tell them the Supreme Court is on the ballot, they are very interested. And we have to seize this opportunity to get the right and best justices on the Supreme Court. So why me? Not a politician, never dreamed of running for the Supreme Court, but it started at home for me. My parents were both committed public servants. My father was a police officer, and my mother a special education teacher, and they established a model of service above self. It's what I've aspired to every day of my adult and professional life. I've been married for 34 years. I was raised among sisters, and I'm a mother of daughters. In my professional life, my first job was as a teacher, and I've been 35 years in the business of law. As was mentioned, I started as an assistant state's attorney. I had a private practice for 23 years. During that same term, I was a commissioner of the Court of Claims, hearing cases against the state of Illinois, been a hearing officer for villages, and I'm just approaching 10 years on the bench. There are 3 things that I think distinguish my career and really qualify me to be on the Supreme Court. It's experience, it's leadership, and it's service. Experience in the courtroom, both as an attorney and as a judge for all of these years, hearing cases, criminal cases, family law cases, and currently probate court cases. My record on appeal is nearly perfect. Leadership. I've always been involved in leadership among attorneys and judges, president of our local bar association, on the board of governors of the Illinois State Bar Association. I'm currently the 3rd vice president of the Illinois Judges Association. And the reason that's important is because on the courts, we need to be in touch with the attorneys and the judges who are working in the courthouses to understand the challenges that they are facing. And thirdly is service. I have taken the Supreme Court's mandate on access to justice for all people, especially the poor and the vulnerable, very personally, and translating that lofty, gorgeous, and tangible into boots on the ground reality has been the mainstay of very much of my work, setting up guardianship help desks. I created the first court of its kind in Lake County, committed to serving self-represented litigants exclusively in family law, where they have everything they care about most at risk, their children, their homes, their finances, and not having the financial resources to navigate a very complicated legal system. I've also been very involved in connecting the courthouse to the community. We started a program about 10 years ago, Paging It Forward, where we are in classrooms with children K-4 on a regular basis, reading, advancing literacy, talking about civics from the very beginning of their education. And interestingly, with the same name as this program, I started a program called You Be the Judge, where I'm in classrooms, high schools and junior colleges, putting students in the robe, giving them the gavel, having other students argue real civil cases so that they can feel the challenge of making close decisions, the power of banging that gavel and making a decision, and the impact that it has on real people's lives. And most recently, I've been very involved in mental health issues. I sit in probate court. I see families in crisis every day. We cannot be isolated in a courthouse. We need to be connecting people in crisis to the resources that are available in the community and dispelling stigmas and, really making an effort to help. I can't tell you how I would commit to outcomes on cases, but I can tell you that I received the Democratic Women's RBG Award, the ISBA's Woman of Vision Award, and I've been acknowledged for my work in access to justice. And it's the full body of my work that is the reason that the Illinois State Bar Association found me highly recommended to serve on the Supreme Court, and the Lake County Bar found me highly qualified. By contrast, my opponent has never been a judge. He has been found not qualified by the Illinois Supreme Court, Illinois State Bar Association, and he has been found not qualified by the Lake County Bar Association. He has publicly stated that he has no ambition for the job. He has extreme views and he is an activist. He celebrated the Dobbs ruling by stating, this is why we elected President Trump. I submit to you that no experience on the bench, extreme views, and a political agenda is a dangerous combination for a judge on the Illinois Supreme Court. But I'm an optimist. And right now we have an opportunity to really make history. Right now, we can elect the first woman justice from the second district, second Supreme Court district. Right now, you can send 2 very qualified female judges to the Supreme Court, and the court would be for the first time in history, 5 women and 2 men. Right now, we can increase the Democratic majority from 4 to 5 justices on the Illinois Supreme Court. And I will just say to you that on November 8th, the whole country will be watching Illinois. And right now, we can show the whole country the way we do things here in Illinois. Jane's Army, I invite you to join us, me and Mary Kay, and let's make some history.
Wow, I'm excited. I hope everyone else is excited. I love that idea. And that's why we're here. Yeah. So thank you both so much. It was really enlightening to hear from you, and also puts it in perspective. But for me, it inspires me to buckle down and do the work. I hope other people are feeling that way too. So we have a couple minutes here before the judges need to hop off because they have a lot to do. So I want to just open it up for maybe 1 or 2 questions. And I actually did have one submitted to me. So looks like Chloe does too. I'll get to you next, Chloe. So I'm wondering, this is for both of you, what do you think are the biggest challenges you face personally to winning in November? You clearly outlined how anti-choice and how dangerous your candidates could be. But do you see any other major challenges for either of you would like to start?
There we go. I would say in my district, it is almost precisely 50-50 Republican Democratic voters. In the primary, there were 10,000 more Republican voters than Democratic voters. We need to get Democrats to the polls, but that alone is not going to be enough to prevail in the second district. We need independent voters to come to the polls, and we need also to persuade open-minded Republicans who care about the work of the courts, care about quality judges on the courts. And we can do it. When we have conversations with people and they have the information that they need going to the polls, I trust that voters will make the right decision, but we have to expand the circle of our conversation, the scope of conversation beyond those of us who, agree or have Democratic views to independents and to Republicans, and that will be the key to success in my district.
Absolutely. The one thing I think I believe the governor said that there isn't one Republican on the ballot in Illinois that will say they are pro-choice. And in my tenure in the General Assembly, there were a lot of pro-choice Republican women serving in the Illinois General Assembly. I do not believe that they aren't out there anymore. They are homeless. They don't have a party. We need to let them know that they have a home, you know, whether they want to vote for every Democrat, at least in our race and in the, you know, legislative races, how important it is. But, you know, I think we're going to have a lot of, you know, converts, because there is not one, you know, pro-choice Republican, or at least they're not willing to come out if they're on the ballot, according, you know, the governor's last speech on Sunday I was at. And it's just astonishing to me, because we know that that is not what Illinois citizens believe. That we know that the numbers reflect people want to be able to make their own decisions. They want the right to choose. They want autonomy, and they don't want patrimony. They don't want misogyny. And we need to go out and sell that. We need to tell them we're on the back of the ballot. And, you know, you can't, you know, you need to look for us. You need to find these judges, and we need to make sure that we start very early. You know, there's a pot of $5.2 or $3 million still sitting there that could be used against us. I don't know that it will happen, but if people vote, you know, by mail early, if we can convince people to do that, then before all of the negative wave hits, a lot of them will have already voted, and we can start, you know, reaching out to groups that traditionally don't vote in midterms, and really, you know, work on them. We have, you know, 70 days, and it is a lot of work, and it's going to be tiring, but the reward is there. And, you know, my district is, they say 51.8% Democratic, which is 50%. It's a dead heat. We know we have to get these people out, you know, not just women, but people who love women, and they are there. And it's our job to convince them that this is, you know, Illinois is not safe. I think when the governor spoke in Highland Park, where Liz and I were so fortunate to be, you know, given a platform to speak, somebody, as we were leaving, said, you know, the Reproductive Health Act passed by 2 votes. So, you know, we have to make sure that people know that democracy and our freedom is fragile.
Yeah, it really is. And I promise to everyone here, we will get to action items. We will not just have this conversation and leave you hanging. But if the judges have one more minute, there was a great question that I think kind of emphasizes, Chloe mentioned it, but I think it just really shows what is at stake. Does the Illinois Supreme Court operate like the US Supreme Court, where a lawsuit would have to come before this court to overturn HB 40, or you mentioned the Reproductive Health Act? So yes. Could you quickly, either of you?
That lawsuit's been filed. I mean, that lawsuit is pending. And so, yes.
Judge Rochford, do you have anything else to add on that, or does that pretty much sum it up?
No, I mean, those are precisely the issues that are going to be coming before the court. And, you know, we can't commit to outcomes on cases. Certainly it's prohibited by our canons of ethics. And actually, it's contrary to the role of a judge. When a judge puts on the black robe, you're hearing each case based on facts and evidence presented and applying the rule of law. But these and other cases will be coming before the Illinois Supreme Court, certainly.
Thank you for that clarification. Well, I know that the two of you have to get going, so we'll collect any other questions for you and try to get answers. But thank you both so much for your time and for your work. We are here behind you. All right. Well, as the judges depart here, I am going to get Oren on the big screen here. If you give me just one moment. We've got Oren here from Men for Choice and Personal PAC and Jane's Army, he somehow does it all, to tell us a little bit more about the nuts and bolts of the campaign that these two judges are running against, and you know, just a bit more detail of how scary things really are. So over to you, Oren.
Thanks, Grace. And it's nice to be with everybody. My name is Oren Jacobson. I'm the co-founder and co-executive director of Men for Choice, and I serve as the political chair of Personal PAC, and in those two roles then as a co-chair for Jane's Army. So grateful to all of you for being here. And now that we've had a chance to hear from both Judges O'Brien and Rochford, it's important to remember exactly what we're up against and why these races are so critical. Like was mentioned earlier, there are 2 open seats on the Illinois Supreme Court, which are elected and not appointed. And if we lose just one of those seats, then our Illinois court will look just like the radical right United States Supreme Court, which is actively and intentionally rolling back the progress that we've made on reproductive freedom and so many other progressive issues. The Republican nominees, Mark Curran and Michael Burke, are both publicly anti-choice and endorsed by the, quote, Illinois Right to Life, unquote, which is the most extreme anti-choice organization in the state. It supports outlawing abortion in cases of rape and incest, as well as when a woman's health and life are threatened. And as you can see, they want to send us backward. And let's be clear, overturning Roe was just the start. The anti-choice movement wants to come for birth control, IVF, LGBTQ rights, and so much more. The list goes on much further than just reproductive rights. Apparently, judicial candidate Mark Curran does not believe in protecting children from assault weapons, but instead wants to give them to children. Oh, and I just lost my point as I'm looking at this beautiful picture of Mark on Instagram. And this is why we must ensure that pro-choice judges like Liz Rochford and Mary Kay O'Brien win their races, which is critical for the future of reproductive rights in Illinois for the next decade and for a generation to come. If we don't win on November 8th, then the same fate that awaited us at the United States Supreme Court will await us here at Illinois, and the anti-abortion forces have the lawsuits already drafted and ready to file to eliminate all of the gains that we have worked so hard together to achieve, especially over the last 5 years. And Illinois will fall down the same path as states like Indiana, Kentucky, Missouri, and Wisconsin. There has never been more on the line. There are something like 8 million people in the state of Illinois who are dependent on what we do for the next 70 or 80 days together. And there are tens of millions of people outside of the state of Illinois who are dependent on the access to abortion that Illinois can provide and that are dependent on what we do over the next couple months, which is why for the next 2 months, we're going to be visiting key districts to work with our partner organizations and volunteers in the area to canvass, which is a fancy word for knock doors, and talk to pro-choice voters to be sure that they know which candidates are pro-choice and to ensure that they have a plan to get out and vote for them. In a few moments, we'll get to some specific volunteer opportunities, but before we do that, I just want to pause and see if there's any questions about any of this information.
I know there are definitely questions out there, so I'll comb through the chat and see if we can get any answers for you all. But if you have questions about the candidates that Oren just mentioned who are up against Judge Rochford and O'Brien, please feel free to put those in the chat. Like Oren said, polar opposites here. Yeah, so again, ask any questions that you have. Otherwise, we'll pass it over to Hannah, another member of Jane's Army, for some ways that we can fight back.
Sorry, I needed a second to get unmuted. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. My name is Hannah Fearley. I'm a board member with Personal PAC and a co-chair of Jane's Army. It was really invigorating to hear from the judges, and I know there's a lot of work to do. I think Terry said when we came on, there's 78 days to go. So now that we have the facts, what are we going to do about it? A lot of you have already done this, but if you haven't yet, please take our pledge to support a pro-choice 2022, and we hope you can start with that. When you take the pledge, you'll be added to Jane's Army's email list, which is the best way to stay up to date on updates and action items. Grace is going to drop the the link in the chat. So please take a minute to fill it out if you haven't already. And then if you can, share it with 5 to 10 friends who might want to get involved. So I believe that's in the chat now. And I know there's been some chatter in the chat box about social media, and we're really excited that Jane's Army is now on social media. This is another great way to get updates on what we're up to, but also to easily share our information with your networks. So again, please take a minute to follow Jane's Army 2022 on Instagram and Facebook and share our posts. And Grace is going to put those links in the chat as well. But most importantly, we need as many volunteers as possible to come canvassing, like Oren said, just a fancy word for knocking on doors, with us to help reach pro-choice voters and educate them about progressive candidates. Canvassing is when a group of volunteers head to a particular voting district to knock on the doors of voters to talk to them about a particular issue or candidate running for office. A list of addresses, voters, and talking points are provided by the organizers, and you get to do the fun part of connecting with constituents about important topics. And as we were talking about in the chat, the Supreme Court districts are large and they encompass several different counties. And I know there's lots of pro-choice candidates in the state legislature that we also need to elect there. So that will be a great way to partner with them. So we'll be canvassing in September and October for some of our favorite pro-choice candidates, and we'll hope you join us. We'll be sending details about the first few canvasses happening the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th weekends of September. For now, please save the date for a day of action on Saturday, September 24th, in support of Judge Mary Kay O'Brien, and be sure to take the pledge so you receive those details. And then I think, Grace, if there's anything left in the chat, we'll be sure to share that with you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Avital Strauss, and I work for Jane's Army. And I want to start off by saying a huge thank you to each of you for joining us in the fight and also for being here tonight. I'm here to talk today about why I personally love canvassing and why it's so important to get volunteers canvassing for Jane's Army and these fantastic judges that we heard from tonight. I understand that canvassing might feel like it's too much effort for only a little return, but I promise it really can make a difference. And given how close so many elections are these days, we want to make sure that everyone who believes in a pro-choice Illinois will vote. In fact, studies show that canvassing increases voter turnout by up to 6 to 8%. So your effort is well worth it. And each voter that we reach significantly increases our chances of retaining reproductive freedom in Illinois this election. I understand that canvassing can seem daunting, but really, all it takes is the will to make a difference and some good walking shoes. I've generally found that people can be friendly and excited to talk to you as a canvasser and learn about the issue or candidate you're supporting. Even if they aren't seemingly receptive, you're still planting the idea in their head to research a topic and vote this election, so it still makes a difference. Personally, I really enjoy canvassing. Other forms of interacting with voters, to me, can feel impersonal at times, but canvassing really gives me the opportunity to talk to voters and get to listen to their priorities and concerns, and even to get a glimpse into their lives. It's so empowering to me to have a real impact through canvassing and ensure that someone who is pro-choice has the information and the resources they need to vote this election. It's super fun to chat with voters, and I love bringing along friends to canvass with me. In fact, I bring a friend along to every single canvass event I go to. I really encourage you all to bring a few friends and give it a shot. It really is worth a try. In addition to getting exercise and quality time with your friends, you will leave feeling fulfilled and energized and having made a real difference. Now, before we close, I see we have a question. Rosalie, do you have a question?
Yes, I do. And I just need you to clarify something really important about the Supreme Court. Number one, we have Supreme Court justices that are supposed to be elected from Cook County as well. Is that true? And basically they are Democratic, and there's a canvass for them to be elected as well. So that the campaign for the Democratic Cook County judges are involved. Is that correct?
So Rosalie, the quick answer to that question is that every one of these 7 seats is on the ballot this year, but
Okay.
sort of based on the geography of those seats, there is an assumption that some of them are going to elect, Democratic judges or pro-choice judges, and some of them are going to elect Republican judges. And Jane's Army is in particular focused on the 2 districts that are sort of the flippable swing districts in particular that are going to define the makeup of the court. And that's why we're emphasizing those 2 places. The Personal PAC broadly will endorse judges for every race on the ballot, regardless of which county or district we're talking about. And so on our website, you'll be able to find the pro-choice endorsed judges in, say, Cook County, while our political organizing work is
Okay.
going to focus on,
I understand what you're saying. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is because from my personal experience, many, many people do not vote at the bottom of the ballot. Or if they do it very haphazardly because they say, well, they're all crooks anyway. It really doesn't matter who I vote for. Now, that sounds very cynical, but it's very true. So when I talk to colleagues and people who I meet on the street, because I live in Chicago, I'm going to make sure that they vote at the bottom of the ballot, so that I know that DuPage and Lake County are really important. But I think that I will also make sure I emphasize the judges the Supreme Court judges that are Democratic and pro-choice.
Yeah, Rosalie, this is Terry Cosgrove. I just want to correct this a little. None of the 3 Cook County judges are up for election this cycle.
Okay.
The only one that's up is, as Judge O'Brien mentioned, is Mary Jane Tice is up for retention. So that is the only name that will appear on the ballot in Cook County. And you just vote yes or no on retention. So I just want to be clear.
And we're voting yes for her. Is that
Retention.
correct?
Yes, you're voting yes for retention, but I will say never has a judge not been retained up until Judge Kilbride 2 years ago, because Ken Griffin put $30 million into destroying his credibility. And there is no such movement in Cook County to destroy Judge Tice by the right wing, because they know that would be fruitless. So I hope that clarifies it. And then there are 2. So there's 3 in Cook County, then there's 4 districts in the state. The other 2 districts, other than the Rochford O'Brien district, I'm calling them their districts, that hopefully 2 weeks from tonight, they will be their districts. But the other 2 are in deep downstate, and they will be won by Republicans. I don't even know that there's a Democrat on the ballot. So I hope that explains how the 7 justices are divided up: 3 from Cook County, 2 from downstate, and then the 2 from basically the south suburban counties, and then which is O'Brien's district, and then the north suburban counties are Judge Rochford's district. Does that help clarify it?
Yes, you have been extremely explicit, and now everybody knows what the odds are.
Yeah, okay.
So thank
Okay.
you.
No problem, it's my job.
Thank you, Terry.
Glad to help when I
Good
can.
question, Rosalie.
Yes, thank you. Great question.
Yeah. We have another question, Janice. I'll take you off mute right now.
Yeah, hi. I know Kathy Salvi is very right wing, and she is running for Senate. She hails from Waukegan. Do you think lives that would increase Republican voter turnout to kind of like vote for the local person, bringing them to the polls and kind of bumping those numbers up in a Republican's favor there?
No.
Good.
But someone did raise the question earlier that are the opponents actively, putting out that they're anti-choice and on their websites, along with other things. And I think recently, maybe I forget who mentioned it, but they're realizing that's not polling well with a majority of voters. So it's not going to go well if that's what they're leading with. Of course, there's a base that will be motivated by that. But clearly we have the majority, and clearly we have the numbers. It's just a matter of getting people to turn out, which is, why we're all here. Yeah, do we have any other questions? Do any of our speakers want to chime in? Chloe, I'm sorry, I kicked you off the big screen. I can add you back in. Okay. Well, I'm not seeing any immediate questions. Oh, Alyssa, we'll take Alyssa's question and then start wrapping up.
Thanks. I actually DM'd you this, and I just wanted to know if there will, because of Judge Kilbrand, I'm wondering if there will be any ad spend on our side for, when I say our side, our pro-choice candidates, for those that are up for election and or retention. So there is that kind of, when they go down the ballot and they see those justices, that they go, oh yeah, I know that one, and just mark it. Will we be able to do any ad spend in Illinois for our justices? Thanks.
Yeah, I mean, I can just surface level say, yes, we're definitely doing all we can to get name recognition with mailers and ads, and we make phone calls to hundreds of thousands of voters. But Oren, do you want to say any more about that specifically? Or maybe Terry? Oh, you're muted, Oren.
Around social media ads and other paid ads. And actually, Terry, it probably makes sense for you to jump onto this one.
Yes, I will. Thank you. Yes, there are things in the work that we are planning and other organizations are planning to make sure that pro-choice voters understand what the stakes are in this election. So you will be seeing that. I know that there's other organizations too that are working on similar stuff, but Personal PAC will definitely be engaged, as we have been for the last 33 years, in educating voters as to the positions of the candidates and making sure that we do everything we can to get people out to vote, which is why support of our work is so important.
Yes, yes. Yeah, so I see someone in the chat asking about recordings and links. I will send out an email tomorrow with a recording of this meeting so you can share it with friends and family. It will also have our action item links to our pledge, our social media. We have new tote bags in the works, so you can pre-order those. Like Terry said, we need resources to make this all happen. We have canvases every weekend of September planned after Labor Day, and we will need, if we can get all 96 of you spread out through the next couple of months to canvas, we will win. We have a couple of minutes, so I will take Cynthia's question. I see your hand raised.
Grace or Oren, I was going to ask a question. There was a question about Curran hiding his position. Are you able to put up the graphic of him saying this is why we voted for Trump?
Yes, sorry I missed it
to
earlier. Let me
Oh.
share that right now.
Okay.
Oh, that's not the right one. That's another one that is equally as worrying. And then, oh, why is that working? Sorry, everyone. Oh, here we go. Judge Rochford mentioned this, but he's clearly, whether it's on his website now or not, this is his true belief. And when someone tells you what they believe, we have to believe them and operate that this is the reality we're living in. Yeah, Cynthia, over to you.
On the subject of money, I understand that before Ken Griffin departed Illinois, he has about 6 million in a PAC. Is there money coming from Uline to support Curran?
I don't have a great answer with that. Terry or Oren, do you?
We don't know, but we can. I know the right wingers are taking these 2 Supreme Court seats as seriously as we are, and it would be naive to think they're not going to throw everything but the kitchen sink against in favor of their candidates and against ours. So whether it's Uline, whether it's Griffin's 6 million that's still sitting there or whatever, there are a lot of special interests on the right. The NRA, the anti-choice groups, the anti-labor groups, the anti-environmental groups, the whole right-wing religious organizations that are against sex ed, against legal marriage between people of the same gender. They're all lined up behind these candidates. So, you know, this is going to be a fight for the next 70 days and 10 weeks from tonight. We're not going to get a free pass on this. This is going to be all out trench warfare, to put it in maybe undue masculine terms for the next 10 weeks. So that's what we're prepared for.
Terry, correct me if you think I'm overstating this, but right, if you think about the geography of these two districts and you think about sort of where the persuadable voter is to flip seats on any race in this state, it's overlapping this geography. So you'd have to assume that the vast amount of political resources that are going to go in, whether it's for the governor's race or any other race down the ticket, but especially these two races, because the right wing has figured out that you can accomplish what you want to simply by taking over courts, not by actually winning elections based on popular policies. And so this is the place where the money is going to get spent, period, full stop, because this is really, I'll double down on your analogy. This is the political battlefield in Illinois. This geography is where it is right now.
Yeah, well said, Oren. Well, I mean, there's been so many great things tossed around in the chat. So I will do my best to collect all of the links that people are working on independently, which is amazing. And like I said, we'll send out an email with all of our action items. But if that kind of wraps it up for the night, I'm sure we missed some things, but we'll follow up. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me. I'll put my email in the chat and I will do my best to get you an answer. But I just want to emphasize again how grateful we are for you all being here tonight. And I hope you're feeling informed and educated and activated so that you can join us, whether it's text banking, phone banking, door knocking. We need everybody everywhere. So thank you all. Take care. Be well.